Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone, I should say. We are live for the 2024 Deanie Awards. Now, I'm having a little bit of issue getting set up here, so bear with me. I'm just going to double check my feed to make sure that I am indeed going live. It would appear that way, but let's ensure that's true. Show all posts, and I think there it is. We are live. All right. I'm just going to share out the YouTube link if I can. For folks on other services. So here we go. This should get a few people on board. All right. Whether you're watching live or not, that's okay. Welcome. My name is Dean Shresky, and I am hosting the 10th annual Deanie Awards. And I'm very excited about the Deanie Awards. They are something that I've been doing now, again, for 10 years. Hard to believe. Many of you who are watching this, some of you might know what the Deanie Awards are and have been recipients of such award in the past. And for others of you, you might not know. So let me give you some context for what the Deanie Awards are. So 15 years ago, this was actually during a particularly heated discussion over a number of weeks on Twitter. In fact, the Twitter before it is now, of course, called X, around awards and just a lot of people debating whether or not we should be giving out awards in school, whether we're talking about honor rolls and other things, and there was a lot of back and forth, and there was a particular award um, ceremony or that came out called the Bammies at the time. Some of you remember that, and certain people were getting acknowledged for this, other people weren't. So there's just a little bit of tension amongst the online world, the community that I was part of, the network that I was part of during that time. And so I thought, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my own awards, and so that's where the Deanie Awards were indeed born. And so that's what I did is I created this little silly little award called the Deanies. And they were really sort of represented the idea that really whatever merit people might have for these awards, it's so arbitrary. And it's just, but instead of just being arbitrary, for something, um, really serious or specific, this would just be my way of saying, like, these are just people that I want to give an award to because they made me smile and or laugh throughout the year. And they were all on Twitter, basically. So that first year I gave out like 100 and some, and I continued to do this. So this just became an annual way for me to look back and reflect on people that kind of made me smile throughout the year. And so that's the origin story of the Deanie Awards. And so I continued to do that, and then comes COVID, and I thought I didn't feel like doing it much because just the whole vibe. But people said, yeah, keep doing it, so I kept doing it, and I've just continued to do that ever since, and it's evolved so far. And so this is the first year that I'm actually doing a video instead of posting it, largely because our we're so fractured in terms of where people actually spend their time. And so we've got people on Blue Sky now, we've got people that I connect with more regularly um, on LinkedIn and still on Facebook and Instagram and still a little bit on X, but it's all fragmented. So I thought, I'll just create a video. So if you're watching this live, awesome. That's good. Thank you for doing that. And if you're not, which probably you're not, you're probably watching this after the fact. That's all right too. So let's get into it now. We have a new addition for the Deanie Awards this year, and that is the addition of a song. So we now have a theme song for the Deanie Awards. So here we go. Here's the theme song for the Deanie Awards. All right, there it is. The AI written Deanie Awards. Actually, one of the better. Like normally, those AI songs are pretty bad. This is pretty bad too, but intentionally bad. So there's the actual award that people receive, which was actually created by Matt Miller, um, which is just an award with somebody wearing shorts. Which the inside joke to that is, I often would type, or I would often write about, it's no pants season, which meant for me it was warm and I could wear shorts. But of course, saying no pants is a lot more fun than saying wearing shorts. And so the whole idea of, am I wearing pants or not, was began to be a little bit of a joke, and so that's kind of where that idea was born. And thank you for Matt Miller of creating this this logo, if you will. So before we get started, though, I do want to make mention and just shout out the fact that this year's awards is dedicated to a longtime educator, connected educator, Jennifer Wagner. And I mean, it's pretty sad in the sense that today Jennifer, I believe, passed away. She had a bout with cancer, and many people who are connected with her over the years knew that, and we're praying for her, and we're thinking about her, and we're thinking about her today, especially. But I did that, not just because of Jennifer's passing. For sure, that's something sad, and that I think about. But Jennifer was the epitome of what I think sort of the connected educator was, in that she was very unassuming, just wanted to share and do good things for teachers. So this is way back 25 years ago. She started online projects around the Oreo cookie stack and a number of other things. And she organized all that stuff and had entries from all over the world, and just continued to stay very, very connected to people, in various capacities. And interestingly enough, I never met Jennifer. She and I were connected. I know she attended a few ISTE conferences. Maybe I wasn't there for the ones that she attended, but she was always very curious about my family, and just really, I think, again, was the epitome for me of what it meant to be a connected educator. And so I just wanted to dedicate this for Jennifer, and we're thinking of her family and her friends who are close by. And there's already been a few nice little tributes to her, and this is sort of my little tribute to Jennifer. So let's start the award show today. So again, this is just sort of the first award goes to Jennifer, and this is the very first year that I did the Deanies, and Jennifer was a recipient in the first year. And again, as you can tell by that very randomish award, it wasn't for anything specific that people had done, but just that she kept talking about how much she loved snow, and she was from California. And of course, I make fun of my Southern friends to, yes, you think it's all pretty and nice until you have to live in it. But Jennifer was always curious and wanted pictures of snow, and so we obliged. So that's our first award. All right. Second award goes to Diane Main for suggesting that we could share some of these Deanie Awards on a new platform. And Diane, again, she's a past recipient of a Deanie, and suggested that we do it. So I'm hoping that people are watching on Blue Sky, following along with our awards. Okay, continuing on. Award for best use of an invite code goes to Michael Doyle. Michael is a science teacher from I think it's New Jersey. It's on the East Coast. I know he's always on the water. He's digging around. I think he's actually clamming, probably even as we speak. But there's his award. I thought that was very clever. I like cleverness, and so I award cleverness when it comes to little social media bits and pieces. The next award is for old school Twitter references. When I shifted over to Blue Sky, it was sort of like the old crowd was there, because I hadn't talked to a lot of these people because they weren't on other platforms, but they moved from Twitter to Blue Sky. And so we got Jen Ansbach, John Becker, Ben Wildeboer, and Diane Krause referencing sort of some of these old inside jokes. And again, these might not mean anything to you. They mean a lot to me when people talk about these. I used to make updates about stains on my clothes and shopping with my wife and daughters. John is referencing a video that I did for David Jakes a number of years ago. I made a couple of really kind of fun videos. Ben talking about a game we played when we looked at people's avatars and kind of questioned whether they were up-to-date avatars or not. And then, yes, Diane, we had lots of conversations about not just no pants, but all kinds other conversations about my various colorful pants. So nice to kind of just sort of have a little nostalgia there. Another one is kind of old school Twitter. Again, sort of a second award here. People talking about the salmon pants. That was from Jennifer Roberts. Name got cut off. We also do Name That Tune. You remember that? Used to post little audio clips on Twitter. Part of it was discovering the affordances of these new tools. So it was like, oh, you could actually post little bits of audio on here. So we played that Name That Tune. Anne's referencing a video that I did for Alacoros, which was quite a collaboration of about 50 or 60 people. Stephanie Sandifer talking about, we used to say good night at the end of the day, which was kind of weird. And then, yes, Carl, I used to talk about people leaving me a sandwich in the airport when I was traveling. So again, appreciate all these memories that sort of linger and people reminding me of this. Best gift response. After, we would joke with each other about different sporting events. This was a recent one. David sharing the famous Chris Farley Da Bears logo after another embarrassing loss for the Chicago Bears. Michelle Baldwin, best karaoke memory. This Deanie goes for her for the time that her and I got to sing at, I think it was at EduCon. We got to sing Islands in the Stream. So it's kind of a theme song. She's a wonderful singer, and she invited me to sing a little harmony. It was actually kind of cool. Good memory to sing a little karaoke. Next award goes for lyric completion. So this is another little fun thing I like to do on Twitter. Sometimes I'll be listening to a song. Usually it's an old song because I'm an old person. And so I would write out the first part of the lyrics and I just see if people just really captured that one. So here, Mr. B. Chessel. I don't think I've ever met Mr. B. Chessel, nor have I ever probably given him a Deanie. But the fact that he picked up on the Steve Miller Band lyric here gives you an award. We have a few others in this category of lyric completion. Laura Bradley finishing off a little bit of Blinded by the Light. Manfred Mann, I believe, is the name of the band. Anyway, not the original writers of the song, because actually Bruce Springsteen is the original, believe the writer of Blinded by the Light. Another lyrical winner, Karen Appleton, Jackson Brown completing the lyrics in The Shape of a Heart. I think it's one more. Donnie Piercy. This is a little lyric completion with a little bit of a twist. So Anthony works in a grocery store, famous Billy Joel song, Italian restaurant, but Mama Leone is doing all the work. So Mama Leone left a note on the door is the lyric. He had a little twist there. Nice. Good job, Donnie. Best Discovery Education reference. So for many of my years working for Discovery Education, has so many good memories there. And this is from Pam and Abinette, who I used to always tease and say, and was it the Muppet song? And Abinette, do 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 do, ba-da-ba-da. That's how I always, every time I heard her name, that's what it would remind me of. So this was getting a nice shout out that they were sharing some recently talking about Discovery Educational Principles, talking about instructional time, and then get reference to my books. That was a nice little shout out and memory there from Pam. And shout out, the Deanie for best RSS shout out. Now, for those of you, there's people that don't know what RSS is. That used to be a thing we talked about all the time because it was kind of the glue that made so much of the connectedness happen with subscription and blogging and all of that kind of stuff. So it's an oldish technology for sure. And this is Amy Bolin, who shared this with her. She retweeted this. So this is actually a quote that she said about me many, many years ago, probably 15 years ago, more than that, maybe even. But she pulled it up recently because she was snooping around on my website apparently, that I talked about RSS. So fun little references. As you can see, there's a theme here. A lot of old stuff here. And then talking about origin story. So this is the tweet for this is the Deanie for the best origin story by my good friend Ewan McIntosh from Scotland. And again, this is I could tell you this story. This was a huge story in terms of me meeting in person a lot of the people that I connected with online. This was at the San Antonio ISTE conference in 2008, I believe, where in December of 2007, so I wasn't on Twitter very long, I tweeted about boiling ribs, and my friends from Texas just about lost their minds that no self-respecting person would ever boil ribs. And so it just created this very fury of tweets, wondering, what was wrong with me? Do I not know anything? And they were going to school me. And so the way they schooled me and, dozens of other folks is they put on a rib fest at ISTE and invited whoever wanted to come. And it was fantastic. And I made and connected with so many people that are still my good friends today. That was an origin story. And again, Ewan was there as many others were that day. And then the Deanie for best reunion photo goes to Ewan McIntosh, Alec Koros, and Alan Levine, aka Cog Dog. So Ewan was in fact in Canada earlier this fall and made a special stop to Regina just to spend the day mostly with Alec, and then invited Alan and I to drive in and have dinner together that night. So that was pretty special. And I think it speaks to the power of these connections that we have, that people are willing to make this kind of an effort to stay connected. So I don't want to go too far into my podcast, if you will, but I just wanted to do a quick shout out to all the guests on my podcast this year called the Canadian Ed Leadership Show. This is season 2, and these were all of my guests starting way back in, where did we go here? All the way in January, we began with Cindy Finn from Montreal, and continued up with so many wonderful guests. And again, I couldn't even possibly go through all these people and speak and give gratitude for each one of them. But as a collective, they really have taught me this year what an opportunity I have to speak with these folks and kind of glean so much from their leadership. So this Deanie goes to all of my guests in season 2 of Canadian Ed Leadership Show. All right. Speaking of that, here's a couple of this is the Deanie for adding more content to their course. Zoe Brannigan, my good friend from Ontario, teaches teacher education at Brock University in Ontario, and has been adding my interviews as part of her course. So I appreciate that. Another shout out for it comes to just Chris Gamble, principal in the Winnipeg region, telling me this again. These are just nice things to hear from people, that the work that you do makes a difference. So the fact that they happen on these social spaces is kind of cool. And finally, this is, or not finally, but another one, a Deanie goes to Pam Moran, former superintendent from Virginia. Even reminding me of some podcasts I had done several years ago for the work in Virginia with the Valen Group. And so appreciate Pam's compliment there. And one more, this goes to Mario. Mario, your last name, Eleftheros, Greek. Mario the Greek, that's who he is. He's in Halifax too. So I love these connections. So he's mentions the fact that he is the son of the person that Jared in the episode mentions as his. So I ask everybody on my show somebody they're grateful for. He mentions a mentor of his. That mentor's son happened to be taking a course from Mario, And Mario said, "Hey, you should listen to this podcast about your father who is mentioned in the any roundabout story to say." I love the fact that people will make these connections and share that out with people, because part of what I ask people to do on the show is to mention somebody they're grateful for, and hopefully they might hear it. So this was my way of knowing that maybe Jared's mentor would hear that show. And finally, my last, I promise this is the last Deanie about my podcast, goes to Tracy Christ from Tracy Chris is from Abbotsford. So I've been able to work with Tracy and the Abbotsford team over the years, and Tracy is a faithful listener, and she quite often reposts and shares. And so I'm grateful for people who are finding value in it along with me. All right. The podcast, these next ones are going to be not so much of online interactions as they are people that I've interacted with in person throughout the year. So my Deanie for the best shipper goes to Jeff Edwards. Jeff Edwards is the superintendent of, I believe it's Innovation Technology in Ottawa Catholic School Board in Ottawa. Now, the idea of a shipper comes from Seth Godin. Seth Godin just talks about the idea that you can do all the things you want to do, talk, but you have to ship, you have to deliver and do things. And Jeff is the epitome of getting stuff done. The work that he and his team has done around generative AI this year has been exemplary, and it's not just talk, conversation, it's actually getting things done. So Jeff has been fabulous in ensuring that stuff gets done. So that's the award for Jeff. Speaking of AI, I'll give my Deanie for my mentor of the year goes to Adam Gary in this very probably unflattering photo that I took of Adam while we were driving together to some engagement in Vancouver, probably. But in all seriousness, Adam has been integral to my own growth in generative AI. He and I kind of wrestle with a lot of ideas together, as kind of is our method and our ethos. So as we're working with schools, that we struggle with these ideas, we're thinking about them a lot, and Adam has gone above and beyond to kind of pay attention to what's going on and think deeply about these things, and bringing me along for the ride. So shout out to Adam. The Deanie for best Catholic public superintendent CEO connection goes to Tom D'Amico and Pino Buffoni, both from Ottawa. Tom is the director in Ottawa Catholic, and Pino is the director in Ottawa Carleton. And again, director in Ontario, for those of you who don't know, is the equivalent of superintendent in most other jurisdictions. But the fact that these two gentlemen work as closely as they do, and they both, when I talk to them individually, they always are so complimentary of their counterpart. And while there isn't necessarily direct competition between the two, there is a little bit for sure. But again, I think the fact that the two of them have so much respect for one another and really do work together as best they can in that role, I think deserves some acknowledgement. So that one goes for Tom and Pino. The Deanie for my favorite presentation of the year goes to, I guess Chris Kennedy is who the award goes to. Chris and I had the privilege of co-presenting this year for the BC School Trustees Association in November. And what a delight it was. Chris and I, have been longtime friends and colleagues, spend a lot of time talking with each other, working with each other, never have had a chance to present together. And so we weren't sure how it was going to go, but I think we both, first of all, we both enjoyed it, had a great time together. And I know we had lots of good feedback for the way in which we were able to engage people. And again, we just had a lot of fun doing it. And so that was my favorite presentation of the year. The Deanie Award for knowing where Moose Jaw is goes to James House of Fayetteville, North Carolina. So when I'm presenting in the US, I may or may not let people know that I'm from Saskatchewan. And normally when I do that, I give people a break saying, you don't know where this is, so don't worry about it. That I come from this obscure part of the world. And at the break, James came up to me and said, I know exactly where Moose Jaw is because I've been there. And so James had the opportunity to play baseball in Saskatchewan one summer, I believe. And so he said, yeah, I'd been to Moose Jaw a number of times. And so we had a wonderful conversation about his time there, about baseball and other things. So this was a new person that I got to connect with this year. So Deanie goes to James' house. The Deanie for the best patio time goes to it's actually Dave Cormier and Bonnie Stewart. Bonnie is the one taking the photo. That's why she's not in the picture. And so I had to, reluctantly take the photo with Dave, who is, I don't like Dave as much as I like Bonnie. I'm just saying that right now. Dave knows that. That's been made very clear. But anyway, that was a wonderful time in Windsor. And again, you can see just over my ear is Detroit, which again, for those of you who don't realize that Detroit is north of Windsor, Ontario, which again plays with your brain. Think about that for a while. So the US in this case is north of Canada. The Deanie for best photo with a DJ goes to Julia Fallon. Julia is again a longtime friend. I got to connect with her at the Mindshare Learning Conference this year in Scarborough, and Julie is just such a delight always. And I wouldn't want to miss an opportunity to have a photo with her smiling face, and so that was my favorite photo with a DJ this year. The Deanie for best golfing experience with the superintendent goes to Kiram Hatchlaff from the superintendent of Burnaby. Now, we didn't get a picture together. This was the course we played on a Sunday in Surrey. Beautiful course. Formerly a PGA event was actually held there. You can see the mountains in the background. It was a wonderful afternoon, and there's Kiram there. We didn't get a photo together, but that was my favorite round of golf with a educational colleague for sure, superintendent of the year of this year. The Deanie for favorite video shoot of the year goes to Eric Nentrep. Eric and I got to do some filming in Fulton County in Atlanta in March, and not only is Eric a delight to work with, because he's, I really sort of love to just learn from him in terms of his video skills and storytelling concept. He and I really connect in that way. But Eric is also a super, super thoughtful person that we just have great conversations with. And just one of those people you can kind of dive deep into a lot of topics. And he's curious. And again, just enjoyed my time this year with Eric. The Deanie for best walk and talk group goes to Jason Bucheri and Chris Kennedy. The three of us have regular walk and talks, and this was the first time we actually did maybe not the first time, but the first time this year for sure, we were able to do an in-person walk and talk through, I can't remember the name of the park in Toronto, but it was a beautiful park and one that I had never heard of before. And we had a great time together doing that. Sticking with Chris Kennedy, the Deanie for best new hat of the school district hat goes to Chris. Now, there's a story that goes with this. A couple years ago, I had the privilege of speaking in Abbotsford, and his former assistant, Sean Nosek, who's now the superintendent in Abbotsford, as a nice little gift, gave me a hat. And I continued to wear this hat, and I would take photos with this hat on. Chris doesn't like to be outdone by these kind of things. He's a fairly competitive person. So in February, he presented me with this hat, which you can see in the picture, and that scarf, which you can see in the picture. But I had the opportunity to go to speak to his staff again in August, and he wanted to up the ante. So he gifted me with another hat. So now I have two hats from West Vancouver. And what I'm saying is I am now in the business of collecting hats of school districts. So if I'm ever coming to your school district, give me a hat, I'll be happy. I'm gonna be the only person in the world who is gonna have a school district collection of hats. The Deanie to the most challenging border crossing experience of the year goes to my colleague Rachel Fruin. Rachel joined me when I was in Windsor in May, and she had a little trouble crossing the border. We won't go into too much of the detail, but it was quite a thing, and I don't want to say she was traumatized, but it wasn't the best experience. So I blame our border people for not figuring this out sooner, but they didn't. Anyway, always a joy to present with Rachel, but the circumstances are getting there weren't as favorable as we like. But that Deanie goes to Rachel Fruin. The Deanie for best new ALP employee. In fact, the second ALP Canadian employee goes to Yumna Ahmed. So Yumna joins us from Vancouver. She's working on our organizational system side of things. She's a psychologist, and she's done wonderful work already. And I had a chance to meet her this fall before she joined the team, or just as she joined the team. And so she gets the Deanie for best new Canadian ALP employee. The Deanie for best photo recreation goes to we have Kelly Kerrigan, Jody Sussex, and Rose Pillay. Now, I'm going to go ahead here to show you this was the original photo. Now, I think the year of this photo was 2016, I believe. So you see all of this there, and also I think it's Lori Bond is here as well. So she's not there. So we go back and we tried to recreate that photo there. So that's why the arm is with the phantom person that's supposed to go there. So wasn't that nice to kind of try to recreate that photo as best we can? But shout out and a Deanie to these three lovely women for that experience. My next Deanie goes to, again, without naming all of the individual ones, my guest speakers from my grad class that I taught this fall. And I was so privileged to have the kind of guests that I had on there. So I'm just going to name them very quickly. All great guests. So I had Mike Ribble come on, Bonnie Stewart, Wes Fryer, Chris Kennedy, Dave Cormier, Alec Koros, and Andrew McLuhan. So really, really blessed to have these kind of people be guests. And again, the course that I teach, the students were fantastic. It was a great learning experience, but I always tell them this, like, as much as you might learn from me, I'm going to gift you with these speakers who you can stay connected with well beyond the course. And so what a stellar lineup of people, each one of them contributing. And as I'm reading all of my students, kind of reflections on the year and summaries of their learning, every one of these speakers were mentioned numerous times in terms of the impact that they had on them. So one shout out to all those people for their impact. And again, Jennifer Cassatot, I forgot Jennifer. Jennifer was also a guest speaker. And again, thank you for Jennifer and all the speakers for their time. The Deanie for best Gen I sharing. So this is, now I'm shifting a little bit to some LinkedIn stuff, goes to Leon Furs. Leon is a grad student from Australia who's just been prolific in sharing so much around Gen AI, and I continue to follow those. So, and I always encourage people to have a number of people who are going to kind of lead you in these new learnings. And by no means is Leon, a fanboy of generative AI. He's very critical of it as much as he is understanding it. And so I appreciate his perspective and continuing to explore this emerging, fast-moving technology. And sticking with the Gen AI thing, so this is the Deanie for the best clever response to a tweet. So without showing you the specific video that I've mentioned there, so of course, Dan Meyer, well-known consultant teacher around mathematics in particular, always has been a strong advocate of finding interesting mathematics in the world. And so he talked. So this video is of a plumber who's, if somebody's in Home Depot looking at which is the better toilet, the one that will flush 8 pool billiard balls or 25 golf balls. That was the dilemma. And this guy in the video was kind of making fun of this. So I immediately thought of Dan, and I said, all right, Dan, how are you going to do it? And his response is he'll have his plumber's phone number hovering over the call button in case any of this goes wrong. Cause it was a very, very odd video. So that Deanie goes to Dan Meyer. Moving over to Instagram a little bit, the Deanie for best family sharing goes to Craig Badura and Jennifer. I love Craig's share, and I love the fact, of course, that both his son and daughter are now. I think his son might be graduating this year from college. We're college golfers. They're a family of golf, so I love the fact that he shares about cooking, his dog, and golfing. So shout out to the Badura family for best family sharing. Staying with Instagram. So my favorite travel sharer is Tara McLaughlin and her husband, who a number of years ago started during COVID. They did what a lot of people do. They got a van and they redid it, and they traveled. They do these epic trips in the summer. This is actually, they're doing one right now over the Christmas holidays to the Southwest US, and I just love their sharing. She just does a terrific job of chronicling it. I always look forward to watching it. I had Tara on my previous podcast, Outside the Classroom, talking about that journey of how they got into renovating vans and so forth. So Deanie for best travel share of the year. We're getting close to the end, folks, here. Deanie for most impactful DM. So I love it when people think of me for certain things. And I'm going to try playing this. I don't know if it'll work, but let's give it a try. So Darren Hudgens is a longtime connected friend. He's a consultant, does a lot of different things with a lot of different groups. And he sort of, he always knows that I love, joy is always a big thing for me. So when he sees something like that, he often sends this to me. So this is something he sent to me just recently, and it's just stuck in my head as a very, very powerful story. So I'm going to play, it's about a minute long. So I'm going to play this little piece from Dr. Gabor Mate. So I just think about that video a lot in terms of, that playfulness and sacrificing that. I never want to sacrifice those things. And again, I want to encourage other people not to do that as well. So thank you, Darren, for sharing that with me. I appreciate that so much. And that Deanie goes to you. The Deanie for most inspirational hockey and being over 60 photo goes to Robert Martellacci. And so Robert is the president and founder of Mindshare Learning. And he's still playing hockey at age, I know he's over 60, and so he's still actively doing that. And I know he does a lot of other sports and activities, and I appreciate that. I've got another friend of mine who's also over 60 playing hockey. I'm thinking about getting my skates up and running again. Winter's a little tough for me for traveling, but again, shout out to Robert for sticking to playing a great game. And so inspirational Deanie goes to Robert Martellacci. again, this one a little harkens back to an old memory, and again, it's just wonderful when people when I'm reminded and people remind me of those sort of good times. So when I was working with Discovery, I was in Chicago with Andy Schaefer. Andy was the vice president at the time, and now he's with Define Learning. But Andy and myself and a couple other colleagues were sitting in a restaurant, and Andy said, "That's Jeff Lynne." And I looked over, and I didn't think it was. So Jeff Lynne is ELO, kind of a little bit obscure, but kind of like if you know, sort of thing. And I didn't ever believe it. And Andy was saying, "Yeah, it's him." Anyway, to this day, I don't know if it was actually him. I don't think it was, but I saw somebody had shared that video of Mr. Blue Sky, and so I posted it and pinged Andy to see if he would respond. And of course he did, saying it was him. So I don't know, Andy, but you definitely get the Deanie for rock star spotting, if you will. Last couple here. So this Deanie goes to best Moose Jaw reference. So again, some people send this to me. This was a Moose Jaw Jeopardy question, and I'm sorry you can't quite see the end of Jonathan. Spike gets the award, and he quickly responded to me. He says, "Yes, what is Moose Jaw?" He knew what it was right away. So thank you. And again, those are just those little moments of connection are so powerful, and they mean so much. And so that's why I do these awards, because these are ridiculous things that have no consequence, no meaning, but they are the human touches that I just think are so important for us to recognize and understand the value they bring to our lives. The last Deanie goes to retired Superintendent Chris Smeaton for the best Deanie of leaders reading to littles, I guess. And so this is Chris is still pretty active in the education world, doing consulting with school boards and whatnot, but he shared this one, which again, anytime as a grandparent, there's little ones involved, I'm all in on it. So that concludes this year's Deanie Awards. I hope, even if, again, it's one of those dangerous things, right? Because I'm always afraid I'm going to leave somebody out, which I'm sure I have. There's so many more people who impact my life every year, both online and offline and all kinds of other spaces. And so I'm never going to get everybody in here, but it's more the act of being aware, noticing, recognizing, savoring those things, those times with people that really make an impact me. So again, this is my way of saying thank you to all of you who I've connected with over the years, who've enriched my life in all kinds of ways. And I hope you have a wonderful new year. And we'll hopefully be back for the 2025 edition of the Deanie Awards. But until then, cheers.